Hey y'all. So, something a little different today. Instead of a replay analysis, what I have is three pretty explosive Viserai lines that I managed to pull off during this past ProQuest season. These lines, when I present it to you here, look like I'm just goldfishing with the deck, but these actually happen. I guess I have no way to prove it to you, so you need to trust me on this. These happen at a ProQuest, and the goal of this video is to showcase to you why you really should be running Vexing Quillhand if you are on the aggro Viserai list. So, the first line showcases how Vexing Quillhand can get you out of your bad hands. So this was one of them. This was a game where I was against Katsu, and I did stumble the previous turn already. So coming into this turn, I had already lost a bit of tempo, and I really wanted to make sure that I can do something good on this turn. So this was the state of the game. I had used one card to block a Whelming Gust Wave line, because, otherwise they get a draw and it just becomes way too much damage. So I'd use one card to block, so I have 3 cards remaining in hand, and a Revel in Runeblood in Arsenal that had been there for a while, which I didn't get a chance to use because, like I said, I did stumble the previous turn. So what I did here was start with popping Vexing Quillhand. So now I have 2 Rune Chants. And then I play Swarming Gloomveil. So the 2 Rune Chants are coming in along with 4 physical. Since I've created 2 auras this turn from Quillhand, Gloomveil is now coming for 4 physical with Go again. So my opponent decides it blocks, and this resolves. And I close the chain. And now, I suppose this line is, showcasing both Quillhand and Creepers. What I did was play Revel in Runeblood, and now, with Revel in Runeblood on the stack, I activate Spellbound Creepers. Note that I can activate Spellbound Creepers because I've played an attack action this turn that was Swarming Gloomveil. Then I pitch this to activate the Creepers, floating 2. And then I play my second Revel in Runeblood as an instant because of Spellbound Creepers. So now how this works is that the first Revel was played, Viserai triggered on top of it. I responded to the Viserai trigger with my Spellbound Creepers, playing my second Revel, and Viserai triggers again from the second Revel. Alright, so the Viserai trigger from the second Revel resolves and gives me a Rune Chant because it saw me play another non-attack this turn, which was the first Revel, which is still on the stack. So that resolves, I get 1 Rune Chant. Then the second Revel I played resolves. It has seen me play an attack this turn, Storming Gloomveil, and another non-attack, which was the first Revel, and it resolves, giving me 4 Rune Chants. So I go to 5 Rune Chants. That resolves. Now we have the first Viserai trigger from playing this first Revel in Runeblood. That has seen me play another non-attack this turn, which was the second Revel I played. So it resolves. Go to 6 Rune Chants. And then finally this Revel resolves. It has seen me play an attack, Storming Gloomveil, and another non-attack, which was the second Revel in Runeblood. So I go to 10 Rune Chants. And then I finally use my last floating to swing with Rosetta. That's for a total of 14 damage. So including the 2 Rune Chants and the 4 damage Swarming Gloomveil I came in earlier, this was a total of 20 damage presented off of a 4-card hand. Which I would say is honestly a bit of a stumble hand. And basically it was made possible because of Vexing Quillhand. Note, I still have 1 floating. So really this line, the attack action did not need to be Swarming Gloomveil. It could have been a Rune Flash, because the Rune Flash will only cost me 1. So, if this was a Rune Flash, pop the Quillhand, I have 2 Rune Chants. I pitch 1 into a Rune Flash, floating 2. I still have 1 to activate Creepers, still have 1 to swing Rosetta with. So, Quillhand, definitely MVP there. Okay, so here's the second line. This was against a Prism in the semifinals of one of my ProQuests. And the life totals at this point were, the Prism was at about 32 or 33, and I was 10 points lower than them at about 23. Well, the reason for that was that I took a bunch of damage on their turn, so that going to this turn, I have my whole hand, and I can do what I'm about to show you. Before I go into what actually happened, let me just talk about the thought process of taking that much damage against Prism and trying to start your turn with a moderate tide. You need to make sure you have a backup in case they Arclight Sentinel in response to your moderate tide. So looking at my hand, I have a moderate tide, a Ninth Blade, a blue Vexing Malice, a Sonata, and another incantation in my arsenal with one incantation currently on the field. So if my opponent had Arclight Sentinel in response to me playing Moderate Tide, what I would have done was pitch this to play my second incantation. At this point, I would, this would have ticked down to start my turn. I'd be at 1, go to 3 total reenchants. This is at 3. I would also pop the Quillhand here, and this goes to 6. I should be floating 2. And then I will just use 1 to swing Rosetta at the ALS and go ahead and arsenal the Sonata, which means the next turn, once these 2 trigger again, I would be at 8 rune chance, and I can just still do my Skeletor Sonata Ninth Blade play, which is what I want to do. Thankfully, my opponent did not actually respond to my Moderate Tide with an ALS, so let me show you what actually happened. So, at the start of the turn, this Runeblood incantation ticks down. I have 1 rune chant, and then I go Moderate Tide, and I pop the Quillhand. This gives me 3 rune chants because of the Moderate Tide. Now I'm at 4 rune chants, and there is the argument here to play the incantation now, get the Moderate Tide trigger, so I'll get 6 rune chants, and then pop Skeletor and do a Sonata. I didn't choose to do that because I know I'm going to be playing Ninth Blade off of the Skeletor discount, and I want to make sure I can follow up the Ninth Blade with the attacks I get off of the Sonata. And so I need my non-attack. I need a non-attack that I can flash in with creepers to get my action point back. So I pop Skeletor right here. And then I play the Sonata and I do pitch 2 into it. So floating 1. So I have paid 6 into the Sonata. It is discounted by 4. Because of the 4 enchants plus 2 over I pitch into it, so X is 3, and Viserai triggers giving me 6 enchants. So I'm just gonna skip over to what I got from the Sonata because I don't remember exactly which non-attacks I got, but I remember the attacks. It was a Rune Flash, and it was a blue Spellbait Assault. So I got 2 attacks from the Sonata, revealing 6 cards, and my opponent does 2 Arcane coming at them. Sonata gets banished, and now my next attack action is discounted because of Skeletor. So I go ahead and play this Ninth Blade, coming in my opponent for 6 plus 9, and I create 2 on the back from Viserai. Opponent decides how to block this. I use this 1 floating to activate the creepers. And then I pitch this, floating 2, to play the incantation. This comes in 3 counters, Viserai triggers again. Go to 4 rune chants. And then I follow this up with a Rune Flash, which is free because I have 4 rune chants. And I create 2 rune chants on the back. And then finally, I do a Rosetta Swing for a total of 6 damage. So this turned out to be 2 damage from the Sonata, 6 plus 9 damage from the Ninth Blade, that's 15, so total 17 damage so far. 4 plus 4 over here, that's 8, so 8 plus 17 is 25 damage from the Rune Flash and the Rune Chance. And then plus another 6 over here, so 31 damage on a turn where I started with, well, 1 Rune Chant from the incantation tick. So obviously, very, very strong explosive turn. Once again, Quillhand giving me 3 extra Rune Chants, meaning I get, my Sonata reveals me more cards, gets me more attacks. Huge, just absolutely huge for this game plan. Alright, so the third and final explosive Viserai line that I have for you all today. This remains to date the most explosive Viserai line that I have ever managed to accomplish in all my time of playing Viserai. This was in one of the Swiss rounds, against a very experienced chain opponent. It was round 3 or 4, and we were both undefeated at this point. And my opponent had played this game. Honestly, my opponent played this game amazingly. The life totals going into my turn here was my opponent was at 26 with Carrion Husk still active, and I was at 8. So it was a bit of a rough game up until this point, and my opponent was playing it really well, where they were doing what chains should be doing, where in the early game they block out as efficiently as they can and come back with just efficient 2-card hands like a CNC or Runic Reclamation, which forces me to block, and then that means I come back with a weaker hand, adds a lot less damage, and they can just continue that cycle of blocking efficiently, coming back with an efficient hand. Also, my turn right before this turn was pretty weak. My incantation popped at the start, triggered at the start of the turn, giving me a rune chant, and my best play was basically doing a Gloom Veil, like directly after that trigger. So the Gloom Veil had go again from an aura being created, and then I followed that up with a Read the Runes. And so that's how I'm coming into this turn. I have 3 rune chants. And then on my opponent's turn, they did the banish. I think they were at Shackle, I think 4 at this point. They got a pretty decent banish, but they basically just played from their hand since I barely pressured them with just a Gloom Veil, basically. They played from their hand, and they ended the turn leaving a Howl from Beyond and a Bounding Demigod in their banish zone, which means that even with just 1 blue in my opponent's hand, they could come back at me with, say, Howl from Beyond into Demigod, so that's 8 damage. They give it go again with a Shackle and then Rosetta, so it's 12. And it's not even counting, if I let them have more cards in hand and they, banish even more cards. So I saw the writing on the wall with, the life totals at that point. I mean, I think that I was at like 20 on my opponent's turn, but it was getting to that point of the game where I know I'm reaching my last turn where I can actually deal damage before I just get overwhelmed by the amount of damage Chain is able to put out. So I took all the damage my opponent presented and went down to 8 to be able to sort of do a bit of a Hail Mary play, to be honest. Because with my opponent at 26 and Carrion Husk still active, it was not looking good for me. And yeah, kind of had my back against the wall. I even had a chance, actually, on my opponent's turn to pop their Spellbound Creepers, because they ended the turn with a Rosetta, and I could have pitched a blue to Skullcap to block the Arcane, which would have resulted in their Spellbound Creepers being popped, because they didn't deal any Arcane to me that turn. But I decided not to do that, because then I'd be at 10, and, sure, they don't have Creepers, but at that point, they really didn't need it anymore to consistently present lethal to me every turn. So I took the extra damage, let them have the Creepers, and I followed it up with this.
Draw your last pathetic card so I can end this.
Viserai.
My grandpa's deck has no pathetic card
Chain.
but it does contain the unstoppable
Mordred TD become Tar Knight Quillhand Skeletasona Tanint Blade Creepers Revlin Rua Blood Rosita.
Start of my turn, the incantation triggered. Go to 4 rune chants. And then, as the explosive turns always do, start with a Mordred Tide. And then I play Become the Arknight. Viserai triggers. This goes to 6 rune chants. I discard this attack. And I go ahead and find Sonata. Goes to my hand. And then I pop Quillhand. Now I am at 9 rune chants. And then I pop Skeletor. Oh, I forgot to mention. What's in my hand? What's in my arsenal is a red meet and greet. So, pop Skeletor. Now my Sonata is discounted by 9. So I go ahead and play the Sonata. So X is 4. I don't pitch into it because, as I said in the previous line, I'm going to get a bunch of attacks. And if any one of them is like a 9th blade or Reclamation that doesn't have go again, I want to keep a non-attack that I can flash in with Creepers to give me my action point back. So I don't pitch into it. X is 4. Viserai triggers. I go to 11 rune chants. Again, I'm just going to skip over to all the attacks that I got. I was definitely very fortunate. I managed to get 3 attacks, revealing 7 cards. One of them was a 9th blade. The other one was a Runic Reclamation. And the other one was a blue. I believe it was a Vexing Malice. So here we go. I got these 3 attacks. My opponent takes 3 Arcane from Sonata. I'm going to just clean this up a little. And then I follow up with a 9th blade. Now this is coming in for 11 plus 9. and create 2 rune chants on the back. So opponent blocks this, or takes a bit of damage, puts Husk in front of the 9th blade, obviously, and then I go ahead and activate Creepers, pitching the Vexing Malice. I'm floating 2 to play this other Become. And I know I've said before that typically the best play with Become the Arcanite is to pitch it or block with it. But in here I am casting 2 of it in this one turn. Exception here is that this is a moderate tide turn, so playing each one of these actually just gives me +2 damage. And also, I drew 3 attacks off of this Sonata, so I can actually afford to discard one of them. I mean, this Reclamation isn't doing anything. So I play the Become, Viserai triggers. This goes to 4 rune chants. I discard the Runic Reclamation, and I go ahead and find Revel in Runeblood. So it goes to my hand. This resolves, giving me the action point, but the chain hasn't been closed. Not that it really matters. And I use the 1 floating to go ahead and play the Meet and Greet. My opponent has taken Arcane at this point, so the Meet and Greet has go again. This is coming for 4 and 4, and my opponent, skill chain player that he is, actually managed to block out the physical here to prevent me the on-hit trigger on the Meet and Greet. So then, and then after the attack, I go ahead and play the Revel in Runeblood. This goes to 9 rune chants. There we go, 9 rune chants. And then I finally use the last floating to go ahead and Rosetta for a total of 13. So let's add up the damage here. It started with a 3 damage from Sonata, a total of 20 damage over here, 11 rune chants and 9 physical, so that's 23. Another 8 from the Meet and Greet over here, that's 31. And then another 13 over here, 9 rune chants, 4 from Rosetta, that was 44. So what ended up happening is I got my opponent's Husk, their last block on Skullcap, even the Spellbound Creepers, their entire hand, and they went from 26 life to 2 life, and then they died to Blood Debt on their turn. So, yeah, again, I guess this was honestly a combination of everything that makes Viserai insane right now, which is Moderate Tide, Quillhand, Skeletor, and Creepers. But yeah, just a showcase of some of the explosive lines you can do with this deck and why you should definitely be running Vexing Quillhand if you are on this aggro plan. And to be honest, my thoughts after pulling this off was honestly, it felt dirty. It felt like this shouldn't be allowed. And also, now the ProQuest season is over and we're going into a skirmish season, a Blitz skirmish season. Everyone's excited about, the young heroes that have gotten some new tools like Benji or the new young hero Icelander. I'm very excited about Icelander. I really want to play her. But if Viserai can just, do this just might be, again, just one of the best decks in Blitz right now, which is honestly a little sad. It would be nice if some of the only young heroes actually get to play the format they were made for. But yeah, Viserai's in this state, this just might be the bane of the skirmish season. So yep, those were the 3 Viserai lines I had for you today. I hope you found that informative, hope you found that useful in learning how to sequence your Viserai lines. If there was something you think could have sequenced better, let me know in the comments, or, let me know some explosive Viserai lines that you have done over your ProQuest season or Armory or wherever. Thank you so much for watching and hope you enjoyed it.